Jeanette tells me you're a pastor.
Yes. Currently.
I know we must seem pretty strange. But if you look a little deeper, if you look with love, you'll see a bunch of kids that are searching for all the right things, just in all the wrong places. So to answer your question, how do I describe my people? They're sheep without a shepherd, chasing hard after lies. And the trouble is, your people reject them. So I ask you, Pastor, how can they believe in the one of whom they have not heard? We can only walk through doors open to us. And your church, well, that's a door that's shut.
Wow. I have to say right off the top, Brent, that was my favorite scene, I think. Thank you for being one of the directors of this beautiful film, Jesus Revolution. It's an incredible story of this historic move of God that was dubbed by Time magazine, the Jesus Revolution. It's truly incredible. Why did you get involved in this project, Brent?
Well, I've done a lot of work with John and Andy. In the past, we've done 7 projects together. And Andy's working on a different movie right now. I always joke and say, if you guys know the Irwin brothers as a team, they've done a bunch of really great movies in the faith space. But I'm like the third Irwin brother. I find myself in the middle of these two guys a lot in my work, and so Andy's working on a different movie right now, and John asked me to co-direct with him on this, and he wrote this wonderful script with John Gunn. And when I read it, I immediately said, yes, I want to do this. It's beautiful. And so John Irwin and I complimented each other. I'm a musician. I'm definitely a feeler. I'm a creature of the heart. And this is a very heartfelt, emotional story. And I'm also a neo-hippie. I'm a farmer. I have goats and chickens. I'm a beekeeper and, working harder and harder to get off the grid and set my phone down as often as I can. And so I think they thought of me as a good craftsman and a good storyteller on this particular movie. And I think John and I had a wonderful complementary pairing on this for sure. And it was something.
You can see when a team, there's something behind, there's like this dynamic behind when something's so beautifully created. So it really comes through your heart, the artistry comes through. And I understand there were a few miracles actually to get this movie onto the big screen. Like it took, am I correct, 7 years in trying to get this together and out there?
That is correct. We were doing research for a movie called Woodlawn, which is this sweet little football movie that we did together in 2014. And in the middle of the research, John Irwin comes in one morning with this article, and it's this psychedelic Jesus on this Time magazine cover. He said, guys, I ordered this. I just read this article. This is our next movie. And we were all intrigued by it. It's just this awesome painting, and everybody wondered what it was. And he explained to us in general what the story was. In the meantime, he was becoming really good friends with Greg Laurie. Greg Laurie became a really big fan of Woodlawn and helped us promote it, helped us record some things for the movie. And so in John and Greg's conversations, Greg Laurie one day was like, hey, I was there for all this, right? Like I went to Chuck Smith's church. I was in the middle of all this. I knew Lonnie and Greg's like, you need to write, John, sorry. Wow. John said to Greg, you need to write a book. And Greg wrote his perspective and his take on everything that happened in a book with Ellen Vaughn called The Jesus Revolution. And from there, we were off to the races, but it got shut down a couple times. So Lionsgate, after we did I Can Only Imagine, Lionsgate wanted to do a couple other movies before they greenlit Jesus Revolution. So it got delayed then. Then it got really close to being made with the other screenwriter, John Gunn, and COVID happened and Lionsgate pulled the plug on all production. Like they were not making any movies and it went away. luckily for me, John Gunn moved on to another project, and by the time it came around the third time, I was available. So this is
Wow.
the third time that we've tried to make this movie, and it finally was made. And it's crazy, though. I just feel it feels guided to me. It feels like this movie was meant to happen after the pandemic. Um,
And meant to
and
release now because there's a move of God, all these revivals breaking out. Like we're literally in Canada in many ways. God's moving up here in big ways, but we're seeing fresh move of God in the US, all these revivals. And here comes this film right behind a lot of these public revivals. What do you make of that?
I think there's an overwhelming sense that we need to return back to the essence of the thing. And the stuff that I have read about the revivals, it's a return. It's like we're tired of kind of the cultural Western things that have gotten attached to this really simple story that a child can believe about the love of God. God so loved the world that he sent his son, like that. It's just this very simplified story about love. And so in the reading that I've done, I see a lot of kids, especially at Asbury, saying, hey, we need to eject out of these hateful cultural elements that have gotten attached to Christianity, or eject out of the politics. We need to just get back to the basics. Like if you look at Christianity, if you look at the sacred text of Christianity, it mentions love more than any other world religion.
Yeah.
And if we could get back to a place where it's showing up in the world, in our country, in the West, globally, if it was showing up like that,
Yeah.
I really feel like our world would change in some major positive ways. So I am pretty blown away that these revivals are happening spontaneously as this movie is coming out. Like that could not have been orchestrated in any way. And so I feel, again, that's another element that feels pretty guided and very strange, and definitely more than coincidental to me.
I agree. And we just affirm that. I mean, we've got like 30 seconds here, Brent, but like, why should people see this film?
This movie is a callback to love. For a brief moment in time, you see a conservative, white, evangelical, square pastor, very moralist, very highly judgmental of the other. These hippies that were, clogging up society, and derelicts and losers. And yet God gets a hold of his heart and says, hey, everyone is made in the image of God. Everyone deserves love. Everyone has a seat at the table. And in this crazy chain of events, he invites these dirty hippies to come into his church, and they find this beautiful place of belonging. These disparate groups in society that had no business being together find this wonderful place of belonging under the banner of Christian love. And I think this message is so important for today. We need to find ourselves in a more loving posture with God, with ourselves, and with the others around us, even if they don't hold your worldview.
Well, that is it. And that is what this movie does, Brent. So thank you so much. So much love to you and your team. May God continue to use it all across the US and Canada and around the world. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on. It's been so great.